Thank you for tuning in to the Why Marketing Podcast. My guest today is Hugh Forrest, the Chief Programming Officer at South by Southwest. Welcome to the show, Hugh.
Thanks, Rusty. It's great to be here.
Congrats on wrapping up another successful South by Southwest festival.
Thank you. We're extremely proud of what we did in 2019 and excited to move forward on 2020 soon.
Have you had a chance to decompress yet?
Yeah, the pattern that we try to follow at this point is we will, spend 2.5 months reviewing feedback of what went right and what needs improvement from the previous year's event. That takes us to pretty much late May, and at that point we kind of turn the corner and start pushing all of our attention to the next year's event, 2020 event. So still have a little more review of good and bad from 2019, or good and not so good. And then we, again, begin to push forward in the new year. And that gives us a pretty long runway to work with.
I would imagine those postmortems after a festival like that, it has to be really, really important to get the feedback from not only your sponsors, but the guests, reviewing kind of what works well. Is there certain things that you see from this past one you were kind of surprised by?
I'm not sure I could say there are things that we're surprised by, but definitely, reading through feedback in various formats, you get a completely different picture of the event than the picture that you had as an organizer on site, and that's kind of a factor of human nature. It's also a factor of how large South by Southwest has been fortunate enough to grow to over the last several years. I've done this enough times that I should know or should understand that there is a kind of cycle here, but it always surprises me nonetheless. And that cycle is that you tend to get a lot of very good and positive feedback on site. And then afterwards, when you start reading more of what you got in via email or other channels, you learn more about the problems. So you go from kind of being elated with, oh, wow, we really, knocked the cover off the ball this time, to a more nuanced or more reasonable or more good and bad understanding of the event. But that's a good thing in terms of understanding that the event may have gone well, but there's still a whole lot of things that need to be improved on, and can be a little bit depressing or demoralizing at times reading some of that not so positive feedback. But again, I think it's a good part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, lessons learned. I mean, that's what it's all about. How do you improve if you don't know what needs to be worked on?
Exactly. And particularly in terms of doing an event, there are so many components to it. And as an organizer, you can only know so much of it. It really, you need to try to understand or experience the event as much as possible through the eyes of the attendees, and particularly attendees who may not have had as positive an experience as you would have liked. So again, that feedback is an important thing. And I think over the years, we've done a lot with that feedback, both positive and negative, and it's helped us improve a lot. But again, it is always a reminder that as good as you think you are, you have a long, long way to go to get to where you really want to be.
Where is that? Where is that perfect spot for South by Southwest? I mean, in 30 years, you've been there, right? You've been there, what, 30 years?
Yeah. That perfect spot for South by Southwest is the fictional mic drop, where everything went perfect and you can just walk off the stage and say, I'm done. I don't have any more work here. But that is mythical and fictional, and will never, ever happen. I think that more realistically, you're trying to every year make it such that significantly more people have a positive experience than a less than positive experience. Certainly the way that we've measured that, as with a lot of businesses measuring that in recent years, is our NPS, Net Promoter Score. And we're happy to see that has increased a lot in the last few years. And want to see it increase even more after the 2020 event.
It's a big festival, but it takes over almost the entire downtown district, if not more, during those 2 weeks.
A lot of what we do, yes, happens in major venues ranging from the Austin Convention Center to the Hilton Hotel to the Fairmont, the JW Marriott, the Four Seasons, what is now the Line Hotel. And that again, as you say, encompasses a lot of the downtown area. What we've also seen tremendous growth in the last 5, 10, 15 years is more and more official or unofficial events that are happening in other venues in the downtown area, in bars, in restaurants, on street corners, and that truly does give you this feel that South by Southwest has taken over much of the downtown area of Austin. And if you're a part of South by Southwest and or a registrant, an attendee, that's part of the magic of the event. Certainly, if you're an Austin resident who is struggling with some of the traffic that creates, maybe that's not so magical an experience. But there you go.
Yeah, I'm one of those Austin residents that's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel for you. I feel for you a lot.
Of course, we're down there enjoying a lot of it, so it kind of makes it a little bit easier, but still, it is definitely a challenge to get around. So you were the very first full-time employee for the festival, correct?
Yeah, someone told me, I don't know, 6 months ago, I should call myself the founding employee. So I don't really know that that's a term, but it sounds kind of fun. I was the first full-time year-round employee for the event. And that was way back in, 1989 or so.
So you're basically the patriarch.
I hope there's a better patriarch than me, but there you go. Yes.
Well, clearly, I don't know. You really look at the success. It seems like it's been under pretty good stewardship. So it's pretty impressive to see. I mean, when I was in school in the early 90s at UT, it was just really a music festival. In 94, I think y'all added film. In 95, it became interactive as well.
Yeah, we started in 1987. South by Southwest started in 1987 as a music-only event. In 1994, we added what was then film and multimedia, and then eventually that multimedia name transitioned, quote unquote, to interactive. More recently, we added in a comedy element, we've added in an education element, and the interactive portion of the event particularly has grown to expand and cover a lot of other industries, and that I think that kind of makes sense, and that there's a technological backbone to almost everything we do at this point. Certainly back to your previous question about when I came on board, I mean, I certainly had no conception, understanding that this event could or would grow to the size and scale that it's been fortunate enough to grow to. And I am still surprised that we've grown that big. But, it is testimony to a lot of the creativity that we are all involved with here in Austin, Texas. Austin is a very, very creative city. The line between the creativity that we promote and espouse at South by Southwest and the line between the creativity that we promote and espouse in Austin is very thin. I don't know that you could be quite as successful as we've been lucky enough to be in any other city. So Austin is a big part of what we do, and I think we're a big part of what one of the many things that makes Austin in turn very special.
I would agree, because when I'm out traveling, people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Austin," or something. Like, "Oh my gosh, I was there. I went to South by Southwest like 3 years ago. I loved it." But it's funny how it gets kind of woven into the fabric of really what the city, some of those unique elements of the city.
Yeah, I think we've been able to shine a very, very bright spotlight on the creativity that happens here 365 days a year. But as you said, a lot of people come to Austin for the event, or they read about it, or they see YouTube videos about it, and it gives a real marker to the city that didn't quite exist before. But I also don't want to overplay our hand here. There's so many things that make Austin a very special city. We are simply one of them, and we're very fortunate to be here and to pull all this creativity together in March for an event that a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment and a lot of benefit from.
So what did you want to do when you were 32 years ago? What was it that you wanted to do?
At that point, I was trying to get a alternative newspaper off the ground, or I'd gotten an alternative newspaper off the ground. It was called the Austin Challenger. It was a monthly publication, or supposed to be a monthly publication. I always say that, or often say, it was an alternative publication, not because of its politics, but because of its publishing schedule, because we never were quite monthly. We were like 2 out of every 3 months. But at that point, I wanted to be a writer, and I still kind of want to be a writer when I grow up, but I haven't quite grown up yet. So there.
You can blog.
That too. Yeah, I guess that's somewhat writing, right?
So then how did you end up over at South by Southwest?
I ended up, or I kind of made my way to South by Southwest because I knew a lot of the principals of the Austin Chronicle. We were, very friendly competitors in the sense that we were both these kind of small publications. That said, they were 100 times bigger than my little publication was, so it wasn't any threat to them. But I got hired onto South by Southwest because I had moved into the realm of desktop publishing, which was a way to minimize bills. And so at that point, I had a computer and they didn't. And that's always the funny story, that's why I got hired, because I had the computer and they needed a computer. So again, the importance of having the right hardware at the right time cannot be overestimated.
So you got hired because you had a computer. Then you end up there. Did you imagine being there? Was it just like, okay, I'll be there for a few years and I'm going to go back to doing writing, or just going to be this long of a journey?
I definitely did not envision as long a journey as it has been. And it was a cool job to have. But again, I don't think any of us, when we were there in the early years, could have imagined the growth that South by Southwest has been fortunate enough to realize, and that it could become a career for myself and the 150 other people who now work here. So I've certainly been a part of many what I thought were good ideas that didn't get off the ground or didn't succeed. This is one of the pretty good ideas that did succeed. So need to have that success.
Do you think it was just the maturity of Austin combined with the moves that y'all made that really allowed that growth to happen? You added, it was that multimedia, which became interactive right about the time the internet was really starting to come along. I remember being at I don't know if it was probably 96, 97, and there was like just a few rooms, it seemed like, at the convention center, that was making it up. And I think last time we talked about probably was just about, what is the web type seminars.
Yeah, well, I think that South by Southwest has been smart enough, fortunate enough, lucky enough to be right at the epicenter of some of the big kind of fundamental plates of where we are in Austin. If you think about the event starting in 1987 and being a music-only event, and that was when the music scene was particularly strong in Austin. It's still strong now, but I would say from a relative perspective, probably stronger in the late 80s, early 90s.
You had Antones really going.
Yeah.
You had
places like Liberty Lunch, which are no longer.
Zona Rosa.
Yeah, things like that. In 1994, you began to see this burgeoning film scene out of Austin with people like Robert Rodriguez and Rick Linkletter. South by Southwest was able to tap into that. You also had Dell Computers had been around a while, but more to the point, you were getting people who were spinning off of Dell with investment money to put into this new idea called startups. And we were kind of the right place, the right time on that. Also, with this multimedia / interactive event in a really good spot when all this content from the music side and film side began to push into a digital sphere. So again, lucky to be in the right place, the right time, or smart to be in the right place, the right time, however you want to spin that. I think that moving forward, we are doing more health and med tech content at South by Southwest. And I think that makes sense on a lot of different levels. First, we see so much technology at this point that has a health and med tech tie-in. Think of your Apple Watch that is having more and more functionality, but also think that the impact of the Dell Medical Center here in Austin, and this idea that Austin will begin to get, or has begun to get, more health tech, biotech, med tech, startups, established businesses that create its own ecosystem around Dell Medical Center. And so again, I think that South by Southwest is smart and will reflect more of that in our program. And I always say that, South by Southwest is a strong reflection of what is hot and what is trending in Austin. And again, I think that one of the things that we're seeing really begin to pop is that health and med tech industry vertical, however you want to phrase that.
I think it seems to also be pretty popular about what's everywhere else because people have really launched brands, new products, movies. It's that it place.
Well, certainly we have been lucky enough to get a lot of media people coming to Austin for South by Southwest. We have a lot of thought leaders coming to Austin for South by Southwest. And it is a great place or platform for people who have a new film, a new band, a new book, a new startup to, as you say, launch at the event or get a big push at the event. They can meet, 30 people in the space of 2 days that it might otherwise take them 3 or 4 weeks to meet. 30 people who can push that new project forward. And so, and that's one of the big values that we can give to participants, creators, innovators who are part of South by Southwest is just that platform, which has a exaggerated effect in terms of getting a strong message out there.
Unfortunately, too, there's a lot of hotel rooms now here in Austin.
Yeah, as a longtime Austinite, have a little bit of mixed feelings when I think that this is a place that used to be a really cool taqueria. This is a place that used to be a really cool blah blah blah, but it's now a hotel. As an event organizer, we certainly need more hotel rooms and more meeting room space for events like South by Southwest and the many, many other events that now come to Austin to take part, to enjoy that Austin vibe.
Having all those rooms now coming online, it seems like it's only going to get bigger then.
We've enjoyed having new venues such as the Fairmont, such as the JW Marriott. We'll see another wave of hotel rooms come online for 2020 and 2021. But I think you also have to be clear that the goal is always to produce a quality event as opposed to producing an event that simply stresses quantity. Quality and quantity are often somewhat in opposition. And I think we've always felt that if we produce a quality event, if we pay as much attention to detail, if we produce a quality experience with as many of our attendees as possible, the quantity factor will take care of itself.
So how do you select all the different keynotes? Well, how's the magic there done?
I'm glad it looks the outside like magic. To the inside, it is a lot of long, painstaking work, arguing, debate, discussion. Again, we're starting on that process for keynotes or for featured speakers. Typically, how that process works is a staff member will suggest a person. This is why we should have this person, why they make sense, and we'll discuss, argue, debate the value of this person, whether they make sense for South by Southwest. If that given person gets out of that committee, so to speak, then we will do an outreach. Hopefully we have some kind of connection to the person, although it, in many cases it is kind of a cold call. And sometimes it works where they say, that sounds great. I'm very excited to be involved with South by Southwest. I can make it work. Other times, or more often than not, it's I'm flattered to be invited, but I've already got a commitment for next March, so call me again next year. You're knocking on a lot of doors, getting some rejections, getting some things that won't work from a time frame. But the more doors you knock on, the more yeses you eventually get, and you begin to build up what is hopefully a lineup of very compelling innovators, entrepreneurs, creators, filmmakers, documentarians, musicians, comedians, all kinds of people who have that bottom line of creativity. And that's what our audience craves. And again, that's what makes so much sense in a city like Austin, that creativity focus.
So it's a long process, basically.
It is a long process. and that's a good thing. I think that generally, whether it's South by Southwest or any other pursuit, that the more attention, the more focus, the more debate you have about a given decision, the better outcome you're ultimately going to have. So again, that long process is a strength, is a feature, not a flaw.
What's next, just from a planning standpoint? Is there something you're pretty excited about, like it's coming down the road either this year or in future years?
Well, I think we will have a lot of the same general kinds of focus in 2020 that we had in 2019. So again, a lot of interest in AI, a lot of interest in future of transportation, whether that be scooters or whether that be the Hyperloop or whether that be next generation commercial aircraft. Again, we have a lot of interest in health tech, med tech, biotech. I think what's also fascinating from a positive and not so positive standpoint is that we're in a interesting spot with technology in 2019 and 2020 where more people are more cognizant that technology can do a lot of great things, but the technology has some significant downsides. I think you can sum that up with saying in a post-Cambridge Analytica world, we are more hesitant about the benefits of social media than ever before. That was certainly a big theme at South by Southwest 2019. I think that will continue to be a big theme at South by Southwest 2020. Another big theme we had in 2019 was having a lot of the political candidates, the 2020 presidential candidates here. I think we'll see that again next spring, where again the candidates found a lot of the same advantages of South by Southwest that other kinds of people, kinds of businesses have seen with this event, where it's a great way to reach a lot of people in a very short period of time, either with their message or also with one of the other things that candidates need to do, which is raise money. So again, I think we'll see a lot more of that next spring.
If you go back over your 30 years, if you were to give yourself one piece of advice that you think, oh, wow, that would have really saved me a headache here, or help you get better, what would that be?
I think the biggest piece of advice to given my younger self is to realize that it is a slow process to build anything of value, but that again, that the having a slow process is a good thing. There were many years, particularly from when we launched what was then multimedia in 1994, and the next 10 years, we really struggled, and it was incredibly frustrating to put together what we thought was a good event on the multimedia side and just not quite get the kind of traction we thought we should get. But ultimately kind of the switch began to flip around 2004 and we started experiencing some tremendous growth. In retrospect, that those slow years gave us some pretty good preparation for the very strong years. But again, the advice would have given to my younger self and would give to all entrepreneurs of all stripes is that persistence, patience can often overcome long odds and various other challenges. You've got to be really committed to something, got to work really long and hard hours. But if you can put in that kind of dedication, something pretty good sometimes or often comes out the other end. And that's where, again, we've been lucky enough to be with South by Southwest. Was
there ever a point that you were like, you know what? We're not doing or this is done. We're just go back to music and film and focus there.
There were many points like that where I just did not see where the light at the end of the tunnel was. I remember on many occasions discussing, arguing with my boss, Roland, and saying, why are we doing this multimedia thing? Why are we doing this interactive thing? And we got rock stars over here. We've got movie stars over here. And all I got over here is these geeks, which no one cares anything about. And Roland would always say, okay, well, try it one more year. Let's see if we have some growth. And he was much more understanding than I was, or than a lot of people, that again, if we had this kind of digital focused event, we would be in a really good spot when the music all started to go to MP3s, when the films went from reels to VCRs to digital files, and lo and behold, we were in a perfect spot to take advantage of this digital future. It may have taken a little more time to get there than what was initially planned, but again, the end result was pretty strong and pretty special, and really need to be involved with that.
So patience, be patient.
Patience is a virtue that we all wish we could have more of, but inevitably yields good results.
I think you having patience for those 30 years has helped make South by Southwest what it is. I think everybody's better for it, especially here in Austin. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you for the nice words. I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be involved with this thing. And again, what I do is much less important than what we all do in Austin to make this place a very, very very, very creative community.
Let's keep it up.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to visit with us. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with the 2020 festival.
Great, Rusty. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I look forward to talking more in the future.
I do as well. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.